soap using 3 different colorants. The green at the beginning there is made with green tea, nettle leaf, and there's also some green sea clay. The red is hibiscus that I have ground up. The yellow is orange peel. There is a little bit of carrot puree in there and some calendula blossom. And that lends just a very soft, sort of a neutral color scheme, which I happen to like. I do plan on doing some brighter ones in the future as well, but this was just something that I decided to start with. The base that I'm using is simply crushed lavender flowers, and there is a bit of chamomile flower. It's just chamomile blossoms that I've ground up in there as well, and that's it. That's the base. I've already already see that this came out a lot thicker than I had hoped, and that's because of the flowers and the clay, so that's not that unusual. So I'll just make sure and pound this down a bit to make sure that all of that levels out in the bottom before I mix up my colors and add those in. This is scented simply with lavender and the citrus that comes from those from the zest of those oranges that's in the orange colorant. So I'm just giving this a couple pounds to get out any air bubbles and make sure that it's well distributed before I start adding in my colors. Now the one thing that you may notice here is that this first color, the green, is not that dissimilar from the color of the base, but once it cures, this will be a much more of a green color, the color that I'm currently mixing there, and the base will be much lighter. So it just takes a little time for it to, probably by tomorrow, once the bars have spent the night, you'll be able to see a bit more of the color variation. Looking at it from above like this, they do look very similar, I'll give you that. And I did just a tad bit of over mixing there, I think, because these really do get thick. And that anytime you're using natural things, they tend to absorb the water, the dried flowers. If you're using clays or teas or any of those things, when you add them into your soap, they tend to absorb the water, and so you can, as you're going to see here, you can end up with a very thick mix. I really like the way that the hibiscus flowers that I ground and put in there, I really like that color that they give. It's a subtle red. Some may say it looks more like a rusty clay. I do like it though. And the final one that I'm doing there, and I'll move that over where you can see it here in just a moment, that yellow that has the orange peel, the carrot, and the calendula blossoms, is a much more substantial color. And it's a little more mustardy than I would have hoped for, but it's okay. I think that these 3 colors, I think that they will blend very nicely together and yet stand alone. But we'll see how it goes. This is rather an experiment for me, the way I'm going to do this, and I actually changed my mind midway. So because it was so thick, matter of fact, I'll lift up the mold here and show you. You can see I just poured that. You see how thick it is? It's not even moving. So it was at this point I realized I wasn't going to be able to do a pour in swirl. So I decided, oh dear, what am I going to do? So I thought I would do some different types, and it changes as I'm pouring here, because I start to pour these in and I think, okay, I've seen people do this before, but what I didn't think about was just how thick that base was, and so this wasn't going to sink in. I could have held this 6 feet tall, 6 feet high, and it wasn't going to sink in. So I decided what I would do is just do some of these concentric circles and try to come up with something a little different, but even that, I changed my mind as I'm going along. I don't know if any of you watched the Oscars last night, but I did. And I have to say how much I enjoyed watching them. Um, I consider myself a feminist in many ways. I'm just very proud. I was so proud to hear the women that spoke up, that were so strong. And if you didn't hear Frances McDormand when she accepted her Oscar, her speech, it's worth looking up on YouTube and watching. She was just remarkable. All right, so yes, I realize that looks like a egg that's gone bad. The soap. I I just kept pouring and thinking to myself, how do I save this? How do I make this something interesting? And all I could do is just keep pouring as my mind was racing because nothing was working the way I wanted it to. The colors weren't mixing into each other. It was so thick. And you will see that end one is spreading a bit there. So, I mean, there is some mixing going on. There is still some fluidity, but it was just not very much. So you can see, the top two layers were kind of moving out a bit, but the larger circles where they were going to be. So I decided to give it a little bit of a shake and try to distribute that a bit. And you can see the overwhelming color is that yellow. As I stated, it came out much more yellow. I was looking for more of a golden yellow, but I think in the cure you'll see that it does darken a bit. And I wish I'd done more of the red. I wish I had made that more of a focal point because, well, the fragrance of this is lavender, so that red was supposed to pull that in. That was supposed to be sort of the purple blue, but it doesn't really carry that. But there should have been more of that. But that's what I love about this. It's you can do whatever your heart's desire, and you can change it, and that's okay. I thought about this. This isn't, with most of my videos, I make mistakes in them. And could I edit them and then re-upload them or wait till I do the right one and just put the perfect one up there? Well, I kind of thought, why not put up these that have these kind of challenges in them? Because you're going to run into these too. You're going to need to know what to do when things just don't go right. And I like... while this went completely in a different direction than I had intended, what I ultimately came up with, I'm happy with. And am I happy? I oftentimes say I'm happy with something, just as a way of perhaps negating the failure of it, or I've done that in my life. But I truly was happy with how these have turned out, and you'll see here. But looking at this, and during this time, I thought this was a complete fail. I truly did. I thought, oh, this is humiliating. This wasn't what I intended at all. And I haven't done this. I really have not been one to do swirls and do big shock, right? I generally don't do decorative things. I tend to go with very natural things. That's why these colorants are here. And I generally go with one color scheme. Excuse me. Matter of fact, let me mute and cough. So much. Thank you. What I normally do is I'll do maybe a yellow soap, very similar to this, or I'll do a green soap, or I'll do a red soap, or an orange soap. Depends on what the ingredients are that I'm using. And on occasion, I'll do a two-tone. But I don't really do much with swirls, or I haven't in the past. This is sort of my foray into that. And as you can see, I'm taking baby steps, or I'm actually taking great big steps. But the results are more like baby steps. Okay, so what I've decided here when I look at this is, okay, this isn't working. So why don't I take a stick to it? Right. Okay. Why not? What can you lose at this point? Because none of this has sunk down into the soap. So there would just be this layer with these egg looking things on top. So this is when I decided, well, I'll try to do some type of a pattern with this. Of course, at this point, I'm thinking, why didn't you just do straight lines of color throughout across the top and then do this? But this was constantly evolving as I was working on it. So this is ultimately what I ended up doing. So I did this and I thought, it's okay, but it's not very pretty. So I thought, why not go the other way too? So as you'll see here, I'm doing just that. Now, here the the green blue, the color is already starting to change, which I was just amazed at. Right before my eyes, it was turning more blue. The reddish color was becoming more brown. The yellow seemed to be getting brighter yellow right as I was watching. And so I was horrified. I truly was. I was like, what is this? So what do I decide to do? So I'm looking at it going, yeah, so there's this. So why not now go another direction? So I did. I just thought, okay, now do diagonals through it, right? I know it looks like I'm on crack. Why is this guy continuing to do this? I just didn't know what to do. And in a way, I will tell you, sometimes, happy mistakes you can end up with something fun, right? And sometimes you end up with just nothing at all. But I want you to watch and see what I did. So I'm looking at it now and I'm going, okay, there's this. So what do? I decide, okay, I'll go the opposite direction and do these same kind of things. Well, the soap was so thick at this point. I want you to see how those lines are staying in it. They're like creases. It started to look like a quilt. If you look at that, it almost is starting to look like quilted material. And I thought that was really kind of cool. I had not ever done anything quite like that before. So anyway, this was what I ended up with. At this point, I'm going to shake it down a bit, pound it down, try to get out any of those air bubbles. So I'm pounding it down there on the floor and bring it back. And ultimately, this was it. So this is how, that turned out. And I'm thinking to myself, what's this going to be like when it's molded up? What's it going to cut like? I have to tell you that this was rather nerve-wracking. But I put my all into it. I decided, I'm just going to push forward with this. And I think that probably the one thing that I can say, after years of doing different kinds of projects, whether it be soap or whether it be baking Christmas ornaments or just various different things that I've done before, I love making soap more than almost anything. I get such a joy, and I'm sure you do too, or you wouldn't be doing this. You wouldn't watch videos. You wouldn't make soap yourself. There's a joy that I get from it. It's fun. I don't think I've enjoyed anything as much as this in a very long time. It's a fun hobby. And for me, it's a hobby. I know there are many people that do this for a living, and I would love to do that at some point perhaps. But this is fun to me. I relax after work by doing things like this, and it just makes me happy. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to move forward here and show you how this turned out. I put the dividers in it, I let it sit overnight, and came up with what you're about to see here, which is the final product. So here they are. This is after I've cut them. As I said, you can see that yellow really is the it's the overriding color, but they're kind of cool. Do you see that quilted kind of effect on top? Now, what you're seeing there, what I'm showing you on the sides there, are the different ingredients. That is the ground hibiscus flower, the tea, the nettle leaf, the clays, the orange peel. So this is a very nice exfoliating, very nice, rather gentle exfoliation, actually, but very natural. I mean, what better to be brushing your skin with than an orange peel and hibiscus flowers, right? The smell of this is just divine. It smells like citrus and lavender, and it's just, I need to trim them up, obviously. As you'll see, there are some sharp edges from the mold, but I'll just clean these up, and they'll be great. I'm just, they're still a little bit soft, but I think that these are going to be just a lot of fun. You can see there the differentiation between the first layer that I poured and the colors I poured on top. It just did not sink down. There are, on some of these, on the bottoms of them, you can see where I drug the stick through them, or the chopstick through, or the dowel, excuse me, through them, that they do have some of the other color that did go all the way to the bottom in a few areas, but overall, this is it. So I want to thank you all. I really do appreciate the fact that you come here and that you allow me to do this. I get a lot of fun, joy out of it. The filming part of it, I'm still not great at. I'm going to keep working at it. I guess I'm as great a photographer as I am a soap maker, right? And I hope to learn to be better at it. This is my first step. I decided to narrate this after the fact. I did do it throughout the making of this, but I just decided to narrate over it because some things I didn't say in it that I wanted to say, and so this is just a new foray. So this is it. What do you think? If you would, leave a comment. Let me know. Just, hey, that was okay. A thumbs up if you like it. If you don't like it, give me a thumbs down. That's okay, too. I need to know. And I appreciate and I respect, what you have to say. So, this is it. I'm calling it Golden Lavender for now. I don't know if that name's going to stick or not, but I like this one, the one I'm showing you right there. I do actually like the red in it. It almost looks like an oak leaf, which goes good with soapy oaks, right? So, yeah. Thanks, everybody. I really appreciate you all being here, and you take care, and we'll talk again soon. Have a great day. Bye-bye.